Hey there, you guys. Today I'm going to address a question that was popped into the Facebook group, and we're going to talk about histamine intolerance. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Cassano, and I am a functional medicine health coach. I work with people to find out their why, what's going on in their gut, why do they not have any energy today, what might be causing their histamine intolerance, what might be causing the leaky gut, as our friend Ellen has mentioned in our Facebook group. So I just want to talk a little bit about histamine. I thought this might be a great opportunity to introduce myself and just chat a bit about this versus just writing it out. So one, we have to just understand that histamine is an inflammatory mediator and our body needs histamine. However, we need the process for histamine to respond to work appropriately. And when it doesn't, just like anything else, whether it be cholesterol, estrogen, cortisol, too much of anything is not always a good thing, even if it is something that's naturally occurring in our body. So when we think about histamine, we need to realize too, histamine comes from external sources as well as internal sources. And external sources we know are there are high histamine foods, and then internal sources of histamine come from the basically the response to immune threats that go on in the body, whether it be inflammation or allergies, something where the body really needs the immune system to respond. Also, histamine can come from certain gut microbes that release histamine during their regular metabolism. So we have external sources that we're most familiar with. We have internal sources. And what we really need to happen is for the histamine to be broken down. But sometimes what happens instead is there becomes an overburdensome amount of histamine in the body, and the body becomes histamine intolerant due to the ability of the body to detoxify or break down this enzyme and cause histamine intolerance. And I don't know in this particular case what Ellen's symptoms are, but if it's hives or allergies or what exactly is bothering her. But regardless, that's just kind of the background of what histamine is, and in a nutshell, of course, and what it does. So I did jot down a couple notes so I could stay on track. Definitely a focus on nutrition is key to understanding if the intolerance is something coming from an external source. And to find that out, I would really encourage a low histamine diet. Ellen mentioned where low histamine foods and are also some of the same foods that are known to help a leaky gut. In this case, I highly suggest we first find some temporary relief for the histamine issue by eliminating foods that may also be good for leaky gut, but eliminating those foods at this time until you can really learn what's going on in your respective body. So eliminating high histamine foods, a couple would be dairy and cheese and wine and fermented or cultured foods. And then also foods that release histamine, not so much high histamine food, but cause a release of histamine, chocolate, eggs, for instance. So really taking into consideration what you are eating on a regular basis, try eliminating those. And then the one thing I do want to suggest in this case too is maybe working with your practitioner or provider and looking into some supplementation with DAO that can help to break this down, because for some reason it in your body that is not working. There's not enough to break down the histamine. So your body's needing some temporary support until you can really get to the root cause of why you are having histamine intolerance. I surely don't suggest that you continue just to push through thinking that that's going to go away while you're healing your gut, because if you've got food sensitivities or this inflammation in the body, the gut will not heal at that time. I know that Ellen mentioned her leaky gut as this healing process is taking a really long time, and that may be something to consider there, because even a probiotic, sure, there are definitely probiotics that are helpful for both histamine and for leaky gut, but depending on the specific issues at hand, we want to get a strain or strains of probiotic that are beneficial, because sometimes a probiotic can work against us if we don't know exactly what we have going on. So you just want to be cautious in that area. And yeah, so we talked about nutrients, not only in the diet, but we have to consider if we have leaky gut or some type of dysbiosis in the gut, imbalances, are we really able to absorb the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that we're getting from our foods? So with that said, you know, what are B vitamins like? We really need our B vitamins and some cofactors that support B vitamins in the methylation process, in the detoxification process. So knowing B vitamin status, vitamin D, zinc, we need these vitamins to be on board and have sufficient levels before we can have methylation process working correctly in the body. So that's definitely something else to consider. And yeah, and you definitely want those things on board, more so for the intracellular histamine that's produced needs methylation to be able to break it down. So that's a big area to consider. And then the interconnectedness in the body, that's really key. So while you might find some temporary relief with these other things in a low histamine diet, what you really want to look for are, you know, consider low adrenal function, low cortisol. What do I have written down here? Yeah, maybe some microbial imbalances or some yeast overgrowth. Has that been ruled out? Too much protein because of the amino acid histidine in there can also cause that. So, you know, what's your protein intake? I mentioned insufficient key nutrients, some B vitamins, vitamin D, C, zinc. Chronic stress. Is stress been a big part of what you have going on lately? Has it been chronic stress going on for a long time? Let's face it, 2020 has been a crazy year. So just thinking about your own story and then thinking about your sleep. I mean, do you get great sleep every night? Sleep is such a huge part of our overall wellness. So that's something to consider. Toxic environment. You know, have you lived in a toxic environment? What's the toxic burden? Are there, you know, a lot of people think toxic, they don't really, what does that word mean? And there's, we live in a toxic chemical soup these days. So we're always breathing in toxins or putting toxins on our face unless we're using like really clean and organic products. So thinking about household environment, has it been a mold issue? Like really thinking about toxicities, even from the water you drink. And then lastly, one thing I have written down too is just if there's been any long-term use of an antihistamine medication that can also cause histamine intolerance. So I hope that gives you like a little bit of, you know, food for thought and what to think about further to consider. Okay, I'm working on this. I know I have this. It's bothering me. Here are my symptoms. I need some temporary feel good, but I really need to get to the root cause, because let's face it, I'm a functional medicine health coach. I believe in root cause resolution. We don't want to just Band-Aid something. So just really start working on those things and figure out, okay, what really could it be? And if the low histamine diet is not what it is, then maybe you look more into the methylation process and really learn and try to find out if your body is going through detoxification as it should. From a functional medicine standpoint, in my practice, there are different functional medicine testing profiles that we use. I'm really big on lab work. CBC, CMP, that's traditional lab work that you get from your doctor. Hopefully everyone's doing that on at least an annual basis. I really do it more often because I think it's just a good picture of what our gut health is and some nutrients. And it just gives us a great idea on how we're functioning optimally. But looking at some things on there, like the eosinophils and your basophils, which are white blood cells, being able to look at those and see how those are functioning. You can also get your vitamin D level and some zinc and find out what those levels really are in your body. it's definitely not a guessing game. You know, I believe in test, don't guess. Guessing is not good science. And then we can also look to testing, stool testing. You know, there's lots of different testing, nutrient tests that we do in the functional medicine space that really help to further define what may be going on in the gut. So I think that's really what I've got jotted down. I hope you find some valuable insight there. I can't really help with like your specific case, Ellen, but I think you are intuitive enough that you can really take some of this information and apply it to your own self and do some research and, you know, work with a practitioner and see where you really are with this. So I really appreciate your question. I hope you guys have an amazing day. And as always, cheers to your health.